John Thomas. You can call me John Thomas. And today I'm going to do my presentation on my summer internship at RD Team Incorporated. So a little bit about RD Team. It was founded in 2006. How it came about was Campbell's. They kind of half their market research department. So my boss, Mary Pat, she's the CEO of this company now. She decided to, when she found out that was going to happen, she pulled out and made her own private market research company. We're based in Limerick, Pennsylvania, but our market is for all of the Philadelphia area. And we, as of 2 years ago, we opened up new markets in St. Petersburg, Tampa, Detroit, and Boulder. So the way that this company works is that big companies like Campbell's, Hershey, Wawa, they come to us when they need some sort of taste testing done or market research studies done. They come to us, we run the study, and then we give them back the results. So we have a lot of big companies, but we also have small nonprofits who want to hire us as well. On the reverse side, we also have about 30,000 people in our database, and we reach out to them to try and do these studies. The big companies like Campbell's and Wawa, they pay the participants to actually do studies ranging from $65 to $125. So it really works out on everyone's behalf, just to have a really good way to get money out of the situation. So my role, basically I came in at a time of transition for the company because we now have all these markets in place. And one of the people who was working here actually quit. So I kind of just came in there, and at first I started out with database upkeep, but then I moved on to survey programming, recruiting, running studies, statistical analysis, and reporting. So when I first came on as an intern, obviously I'm just going to do intern things. Starting with database, like I said, there are about 30,000 people in the database, and you have to update every time someone does a study. So we had a big Hershey protein study, protein bar study, and I had to go in there and update all the people who did participate in the study. It's about 12 to 15 people who work there. They're all middle-aged women, so I was the only person of a minority and male working for the company, so it's pretty nice breath of fresh air for everyone. That's pretty good, but that's what I did when I first started. I eventually got sick of it though. I didn't really like Access a whole lot, so I asked my boss if there's any other stuff I could do. So she moved me to pre-qualifying surveys. So we use this program called Vivici, or we started using Vivici. And this is how we send it out to the respondents. They take this survey that we make in here to see if they can actually qualify for the study. Now I actually was a participant before I was an intern, so I actually knew a lot of the ways to get around the survey logic, and I kind of told the company people are getting around surveys by hitting the back page or just retaking it again. So we ultimately just moved over to SurveyMonkey as a result, and now I know SurveyMonkey like the back of my hand. It's the way it works is you just program the questions in there and send it out. So for example, if we have this question right here, the only right answer would be brie cheese. If you select anything but brie cheese, then you will be termed from the study and you cannot participate in it. I also turned on IP address tracking for it, which they didn't know how to do, so that way someone can't do the same study twice. There are still certain ways to get around it, which we couldn't control, but I felt like I contributed to the company by closing up a big hole in a spot that could have confounding variables. I also did a lot in recruiting. We had 3 big studies going at the same time for Campbell's throughout the summer. When we take that pre-qualifying study, their data comes into numerical, each response codes to a certain number, and then it goes into Excel. So it was my job to go through and kind of just schedule it. That was more towards July. They sent me to an Excel class, and I did 3 levels of it, so all the way to advanced level in Microsoft Excel, and they taught me all the tricks of how to organize spreadsheets and stuff like that. That was probably the most useful skill I got out of this internship, actually, because now I know Excel like the back of my hand. Certain companies that hire us, they look for certain quotas between male and female to what kind of brands they use. So for this study we did for salsa, we needed to have a 50-50 ratio of Pace to store brand users. Pace is owned by Campbell's. So running the study was actually pretty cool. They put me on the floor for a day, so I thought I'd take a good opportunity to do a photo op. It showed me a lot about actually doing a study. and showing like how many different things can affect your results. It's really big. It's really important for people to get a clean palate every time they taste a different kind of object. Make sure the food's served at a certain temperature and that there are enough pieces of whatever's in the soup, for example, in the sample. So that way you can have a really accurate response. More towards the late July, early August, I moved toward statistical analysis. We actually outsource our stats from the studies that we run to a private statistician, and I got to work with him with a little bit. He does most of his stuff in R and Excel Stat, which I was actually surprised that he used Excel Stat a lot. You can see here, this is just one of the questions, a bunch of the questions that we had asked on one of our studies. They come in for the study and do the questionnaire that's separate from the program survey that I did in the beginning. But here we can see a two-sided pair t-test. Typically it's 90% confidence for most market research studies, and then we want to see every time you see like a letter beside it, that means that we were significantly higher. And then here's another thing that was completely new to me, penalty analysis. There's a lot of details about it, but basically the higher your penalty is, that means that there are more people who feel this way. So broth being too thick for Campbell's chunky pot roast soup was something that we wanted Campbell's to look at and be like, this is what a lot of people are saying. And mean drop works in the same way. And then on the flip side for Progresso, but like for the studies that we do, we only target towards what our client wants, so we would tell them mostly where we could fix. So then for the majority of August, this is what I had to do, get these presentations together, because after clients came to us for certain studies, we would have to get into a PowerPoint presentation so that they can present it to the R&D department or the sensory department, depending on the company. So check it out, this is what we would put together right here. The data from the statistical analysis, we would then make look really nice for the client so that they can present it to the higher ups. Here's just about right scales, or JARS for short. Basically, too few, just right, or too many. You want to be in that center area to have the perfect product. So, for example, for texture of clams for New England clam chowder, we were right in that sweet spot of having significance in that middle area, and that's kind of what you want to shoot for. And you want to beat out your competitors as well, because they had too tough of a texture on their clams. Campbell's is also really big on looking at emotional and functional attributes, so they have a whole grid of different descriptors for their products, and it was the participants' job to see which ones would they classify. And these are all the ones that were statistically more significant than the others for Campbell's, and then vice versa for Progresso. Note that this was a study that for a new kind of recipe that they were using for Campbell's Chunky to see if it's worth putting onto the store, because the market is consistently changing. A can of Campbell's soup, like in 2015, is totally different than it is now. We just don't notice it because the times just keep on changing. But we did, they were doing pretty well with this one compared to them, which got boring, incomplete, unsatisfying, and I guess guilt-free. Action standard is really important too, because this is kind of what the whole test accumulates to. Once we select action standard, based on overall liking, we can tell the company that it is okay to continue with this product and use it on the stores. If you have any more adjustments, like you can continue off of this base. I was able to go out to Campbell's headquarters for a couple times too. Went out there and I was proctoring focus groups that we were doing. We have Campbell's rolling out a new topper type deal where they put the soup in the bottom in a little plastic thing and the dry ingredients on the top, and they wanted to see how people would buy it, which is really neat because they paid people $300 just to do these focus groups. This is in Camden, New Jersey, but pretty neat experience. They also flew me out to Colorado to proctor focus groups out there, which is really neat. We were doing that big nationwide study on pot roast and New England clam chowder, and I was able to go out and kind of venture Colorado. I also had to go out and recruit more people for the study so we can build our database. So I was literally walking through the streets of Colorado just to get people to do these studies, handing out flyers. It was actually really fun just because it's Colorado, so it was a really fun time over there. And then this is what a typical focus groups would look like. I'd be behind two-way glass so they couldn't see me on the other side. But it was really neat. I just had to sit there and just watch, make sure everything was happening. If I saw any error in our study, I had to let the proctors know. But all in all, it was a really cool experience. I want to thank Mary Pat Julius, who was my boss, CEO of the company, and she really held my hand throughout the whole process. My friends in career professional development in the back for letting me get all the skills I needed to get an internship, and then both my advisors, Professor Grossbauer and Peter, and all my friends. So yeah.